Welcome back to another video. My name is Father Peter, and this Sunday is Advent. We're going to begin a new liturgical season. That means we're going to say goodbye to Luke, and we're going to be saying hello to Matthew. We're going to be hearing Matthew's gospel throughout the year. So Matthew is now going to be our spiritual director. So what I wanted to do with this video is just kind of introduce you to Matthew and not look at any particular text, but just to generally give you the frame of mind that we should have going into this. Now, what we want to do, whenever we read a passage from any of the Gospels, is we want to kind of have the big picture of what's going on. What is the main theme? What is that thread that's weaved throughout the whole Gospel? What's the main purpose of Matthew? Why did he write this Gospel in the first place? So what I want to be thinking about, the first thing that comes to mind, if I want to see the big picture, is fulfill the law. To fulfill the law. Not just some of the law. I mean, even the iota, even a dot of the part of the law needs to be fulfilled. Now, of course, this doesn't sound very exciting, does it? A whole book about telling us to fulfill all the details of the law. But it really is quite exciting, because the reason why is because Jesus gives us a new law, just like Moses did. But when Jesus gives us the law, when Jesus tells us what to do and gives us instruction, it's always going to benefit people's lives. Now, you remember Moses gave the 10 Commandments, and the 10 Commandments were basically to help us to avoid hurting people. That's don't kill, don't steal, don't rob, don't commit adultery. People get hurt when we commit these sins. And so these 10 Commandments are to prevent us from hurting people. Jesus takes it up a notch. Jesus takes it up, the standards go a lot higher with Jesus, because Jesus wants the laws to be able to benefit people. That's why Jesus is like the new Moses, going on the mountain, and the first thing he gives us is the Beatitudes. All the Beatitudes are directed toward people being blessed. That means we are humble people, blessed people, the poor of spirit, those that suffer for persecution because of his name. People benefit from that. People benefit when we mourn. People benefit when we are pure of heart or when we're merciful. But then Jesus extends the law even further. He says we must turn the other cheek when somebody slaps us. We got to give somebody our coat when they take our shirt. We have to love our enemies and pray for our persecutors. We can't kill, but we can't even call anybody a fool. We can't even look at anybody with lust. These are hard. These are really hard details. In fact, some people will say that it's almost seems to be impossible to live up to the high standards that Jesus is setting here. He tells Peter that you can't just forgive 70 times. You got to forgive 70 times, 7 times. This is really hard stuff. So how are you supposed to do the impossible? Well, that's the whole idea of the gospel, is that God is with us. That's how you do it. You can do the impossible when God is with you. That's the theme. That's at the beginning of Matthew's gospel. He says, Emmanuel, God is with us. And at the end of the gospel, when Jesus ascends into heaven, he says, I will be with you for all days until the end of time. So those are the bookends of the gospel, is that it allows that when God is with us through Christ, we can do the exciting thing like the impossible. I remember in the Exodus when God appeared to Moses in the burning bush, and God said to Moses, Moses, I have a good idea. We're going to go into Egypt. We're going to free all the people from Pharaoh. I'm going to take you into the desert, and then we're going to end up in the promised land. And of course, Moses said that's ridiculous, that's impossible. The plan's not going to work. He says, I'm a man who is a former slave, and I have a rap sheet for murder. I'm not going to be able to just walk into Egypt. And even if I did, I'm not going to have an audience with Pharaoh. And even if I did, if I give him your message that you want to free his free help, his slaves, he's not going to fall for that at all. He's going to be very upset. But let's say, for instance, he thinks that's a great idea. We would go into the desert with no food, no water. So what God responds to each one of these objections by saying, don't worry. I know you're going to go into Egypt, and I know you're going to have an audience with the most powerful man in the world, and you're going to get tongue-tied. Don't worry, I'll be with you. Yeah, and Pharaoh's not going to like the idea of freeing his free help and his slaves, but don't worry, I'll be with you. Yeah, and you're going to go into the desert. There's not going to be any food and water there, but don't worry, I will be with you. And that's what I will be with you means. Is you will be able to do great things. You'll be able to do the impossible. Remember in the gospel, there was the rich man. And the rich man goes to Jesus and he says, in Matthew's gospel, he says, I want to go to heaven. How do I do it? And so Jesus says, well, keep the commandments. And so he names 5 of the commandments of Moses. And he says, well, I always kept these commandments. So then Jesus says, then Jesus steps in and he says, no, you got to fulfill the law. And I want you to sell everything that you have. And now that's really hard. That seems to be impossible. But see, Jesus is going to make it easy. He doesn't stop there. He says, you give everything up, I will give you treasure that you can't even imagine. Okay, yeah, your stuff in your garage, you're going to get rid, get rid of some of this stuff in the closet. You never use it anyway, and you're going to turn that into great treasure. So Jesus always makes hard rules, difficult things easy because Jesus is with us. But unfortunately, the rich man walked away. He walked away from Jesus. He walked away from the presence of God, and now it becomes impossible. He's not going to be able to do it when you do that. So the theme of the gospel that we're going to see every week, we're going to see a passage from Matthew. And Matthew's going to encourage us in these stories to do the impossible because we can, because God is going to be with us. And there's nothing greater than doing great things. And the second thing is that when we do these impossible things, when we do fulfill the law, people are going to benefit. People are going to benefit from our lives of sacrifice. Yeah, it's going to be hard, but God's going to make it easy being with us, and the fact that people are going to benefit from our sacrifices, from our obeying. So the more detailed we are with the law, the more people are going to benefit. Look at Christ on the cross. People benefited from his suffering. People benefited from him living the Beatitudes when he was on the cross. It was on the cross that he was poor in spirit. It was on the cross that he was meek. It was on the cross that he was pure of heart. It was on the cross that he was persecuted and suffered. All of these things, people benefited from that. So we're going to see Jesus as our model and also our help. He is our yoke mate. He is the one that's going to help us. So we're going to be encouraged this year, every Sunday, hearing from Matthew, encouraging us to do great things that will, and our life will have great purpose because we're doing things for others. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe. I have so many wonderful insights to share with you as we go forward and look at the liturgies during this new liturgical year. So I'll hope to see you in the next video.